could speak from up here, but I don't have to. So some of you will hear me from behind. Doesn't work. And it's easy. This is a small room. I will also say that for me this is a conversation. I'm going to present slides that you can interrupt, you can ask me questions, it's fine with me, and I'd be glad to answer as best I can. This is the hottest topic in tobacco control, and one of the problems is it's not even tobacco, or is it? So let's just start. First of all, I have a conflict of interest in case it matters, and I'd like you to be able to describe how these things have been classified, to classify where they stand in the context of nicotine addiction, and to advocate for regulations on usage akin to those currently used for cigarettes. I think the more we can group them, the better. Now, nicotine-related mortality. The CDC figures approximately 50% of chronic smokers will die of tobacco-related disease. This is a big deal. And so, unfortunately, and this is one of the divide and conquer things that the industry will do, rather than calling this the Tobacco Control Conference, we actually have to call this the Nicotine Control Conference because, in a sense, we have a new enemy. So I'll rename this conference retroactively the Nicotine Control Conference, Sullivan County, 2014. So I'll start with a question. Which way is the stairway going? It is. All right. That's your philosophical question. And let's just go back a little bit. You may not know that in 1963, an American named Herbert Gilbert, who is now 83, devised a smokeless, non-tobacco cigarette. He actually patented it, and this is from his patent, and described it thusly. Flavored air passes through a section of the device heated by a suitable heating element so that warm, moistened flavored air is drawn into the mouth and, if desired, into the lung of the user. It sounds like an e-cigarette. An intelligent person would say that this is the first e-cigarette. Number one, it was a market flop, and number two, the e-cigarette companies claimed that, of course, theirs is entirely different because if they claimed otherwise, they would owe me something. This is all about money. Certainly not an argument about health. This entire industry is about money. There was a new advancer, I should say, e-cigarettes were reborn in 2003 when a man named Tom Lick devised a device which involved piezoelectric technology. His father was an avid smoker, and he was a smoker. And so he took inkjet technology and managed to put it into something that small. With an inkjet, you have an electrical current or a sound wave that is generated by a little metal thing that vibrates up and down. And it vibrates at such a speed that it can aerosolize something. And if you take this inkjet and imagine that instead of ink, this yellow ink, you have nicotine, you can aerosolize nicotine. So this is brilliant. I mean, to take this technology, put it in something that small, it's amazing. However, e-cigs evolved further. The Sheep brothers in England in 2008 took the cartridge, the reservoir for the nicotine, and the atomizer, the thing that turned it into a vapor, and they put it in the same little thing, and they gave it this cute little name, cartomizer. So right now, and I'll show you a more modern version, here's a dual coil cartomizer. And you can see that inside of it, you have a surround, or a mesh, which contains this liquid. You have coils that heat up when you suck on it. So you suck on it, the coils heat up, and that mesh creates a mist that can then be inhaled. And this cartomizer is taking over the industry. In fact, if you want online, you can get yourself your own cartomizers and start your own e-cig business right now. Here are the cartomizers available online. As you can see, these are dual coil blank cartomizers, the hybrid quality. You can also get your nicotine. This is online. I just want you to know this is on sale. $5.99.95, 2 gallons of pure nicotine, and it is completely legal for you to buy nicotine, to mix it in your garage with any flavor you wish, to put it into a nice little container, and to sell it to whomever you might want. Okay. It doesn't qualify for free shipping, I just want to point that out. And purchases are fine. So, what are e-cigs? Are they a drug delivery device? Are they a tobacco cessation device? Are they a tobacco product? Don't be logical. That's my advice. The FDA did try to do something when e-cigs came out. They actually, in 2008, banned imports. They were all coming from China at that time. Under the right to control drug devices or drug device combinations. Because it appears that you have a device, you put a drug into it, and that drug is delivered by the device. This would seem to be a logical thing. But, you know, here come the e-cig companies. They sued the FDA. They said that e-cigs are not a drug, nor a drug device. It can't be regulated. The district court said that e-cigs contain tobacco and may be regulated as tobacco. Whereas they are tobacco, they represent neither drug nor drug delivery device. Doesn't it sound crazy? I mean, are you going nuts? I'm going nuts for the 30th time. And that was upheld. The FDA appealed that decision. It was upheld. And it says, whereas they are not marketed as tobacco cessation, they said they're tobacco. So you can't say they're used as a cessation device. So all this cessation stuff is people the tobacco industry pays to do their work for them because they're not allowed to say you can stop smoking with an e-cigarette. It's part of the, you know, they're not a medication. They don't do any good for you. They're a recreational tobacco device. Okay. So. And this is kind of a weird slide. Let's just go to who regulates them, and the answer is nobody. Okay? Any regulation so far as at the state level, I'll talk to you about the last part of that, or what's come up recently. But right now, only 5 states have regulations. I believe my state of Arkansas and your state actually have some regulations in line with respect to cigarettes. There was only 5 at the time of my last count. So, some of this has been alluded to by Dr. Glantz, and I think visuals help me a lot, so I'm going to try to give you a feeling for what's happened as well as some information. This is what we used to have. This was commonplace. If you don't read that as tobacco and sex, you're crazy. This is my favorite. What kind of woman waits 3 years for 5 minutes of pleasure? Okay. And this has been outlawed. Oh, actually, this one's pretty good too. And you know I like this one. Should a gentleman offer a tip-a-rillo to a violinist? We have sex, youth, beauty, intellect, and parts. All for a product that kills. Okay? And one of my points to this, and come to my other one, next one, is that everything that is done by implication now in the tobacco industry. There is no truth to stand on. Everything is implication and insinuation. And we won't win this battle unless we counter it in our own way. That was the tobacco and athleticism. This is why quit. And those are all gone until that last one, the black guy down there. And now they're back. So he was talking about that, I was alive back then, and I'm alive now. And so suddenly, again, we have youth, sex, beauty, and nicotine. That's the only thing, right? Nicotine. And it's so ironic when you e-cigarette. This is the sexiest ad I've ever seen. He showed it to you, so we won't dwell on that. But you can see where it's being marketed. It's being marketed as you're cool to use this. There seemed to be some hope. The 2009 Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. It recognizes, this is the most important line, that virtually all new users of tobacco products are under 18, the minimum legal age. So every new use of tobacco, virtually, is illegal in the United States. That's what that says. It's illegal. It gives the FDA authority to regulate manufacture, distribution, marketing of tobacco products, and now we have a tobacco product, don't we? It's not a drug or drug delivery device, it's a tobacco product. And it gave the FDA enforcement capacity. There are other things that the tobacco industry was supposed to do that it's never done in its long history of lives. In fact, it has publicly in Congress denied them. I thought I'd give you a brief slide about the positives of nicotine. Okay, so just dwell on these positives. I'm not going to read them to you. Okay, you got that? So, nicotine, enjoyed and smoking everywhere. What I'm showing you is an FDA study of the nicotine concentrations in different e-cigarettes. And one of the first things, if you ask me what an e-cigarette is, nobody knows is the answer. And I'll show you that in several ways, okay? These are different brands of e-cigarettes. These are supposed to be low nicotine, mid nicotine, and high nicotine. So they sort of follow that. This is supposed to be zero nicotine. That's nicotine. But you can see that the nicotine content of different e-cigarettes varies dramatically. It gets even worse than that. This is delivered nicotine, okay? And there are a few things on this. On the left, you have delivered dose, and it's dosed by puffs. You see number of puffs here, it goes to 300. Cumulative delivered dose, 4E6. You can see this one delivers 15 milligrams over 300 puffs, and this delivers about 2. Okay? You see the percentage of the nicotine in the cartridge that's delivered. It varies from 64% to about 12%. And the bottom line is, again, you don't know what an e-cigarette is. A, you don't know what it contains, period. B, you don't know how much nicotine it contains, how much you're getting. None of that is known. This is an unknown. So you're inhaling a known toxin in unknown doses when you take cigarettes. Other ingredients were mentioned. These are all present in e-cigarettes, lower quantities than cigarettes contain them. But nevertheless, they are substances of potential danger of which you know nothing when you take an e-cigarette. Okay. So, going back up or down, the problem is you don't even know where you're starting. There's no landing here. An e-cigarette is somewhere in this nicotine stuff, and we don't know where. Okay. Now let's move on. March 2014, Ren Dalgo. We hear a little noise coming, and he's taken the lid off all of them, and he has this liquid everywhere. He's got it all over him. He's been eating it, the liquid itself. It's very sweet. He vomited all day and then suffered painful withdrawal symptoms. The doctor said he was lucky. Gall-dropsy liquid has low nicotine levels. So here's a kid drinking the liquid. And we'll show you why it's obviously something kids would want to drink.
I mean, you took the e-cigarette apart and was drinking.
I'll show you. Thank you. See, I don't mind questions. All right. Let's just look at poison center calls. And this is in 2010 for e-cigarettes. And this is in 1 month in 2010. This is 1 month in 2014. I will tell you, 215 calls to the poison center isn't a lot. Okay, it's not a lot yet. But if you look at the rate of increase, it's unbelievable. And this is why. I'm going to show you some pictures of e-cig liquids as they're sold to the consumers. Of course, these are the adults who are trying to quit smoking cigarettes, right? We do understand that. I don't want you to get confused and think that these flavors, like vanilla, chocolate, apple, Mountain Dew, vanilla bean, red hot lava, pineapple punch, and sweet tart have anything to do with children, please. Okay? These are for adults who are trying to quit smoking tobacco. See, I'm getting upset. I find this so mysterious. Okay, and why are these flavors so important? Let's go back to another old ad. If you look at this ad, it's toasting your throat protection against irritation, against cough. Turns out that cigarettes actually are very irritating. And there are two ways that the industry has gotten around this. One is to put menthol in cigarettes, which everybody knows. In fact, the government has published a treatise showing that menthol makes more kids smoke and makes tobacco more tolerable, but still has an outlier. Okay, so we have the menthol issue. The other way to make tobacco products more palatable is to flavor them. And that's what they were trying to get rid of or to solve back then, and they solved with the flavors. Now, you've seen this. I started talking about flavors. I just wanted to show you the crossover. These are cigars. These are e-cigs. So the tobacco industry, in every area in which it is not strongly regulated, is trying to get kids involved. This is one of my most important messages. To me, it's the most important message. Okay? It's children, and this will be my message in this and my next talk also. I mean, it's pretty obvious what these flavors are doing. And actually, they're showing the cigars here, not the e-cigs, but to me, it's the same topic. You've seen this slide. Lance had it up, showing the e-cig use among children. Children also are actually more aware than adults of the presence of e-cigs. Now, I think that's changed, but there was a study that I read in which say 20% of high school children knew all about e-cigs, and 10% of adults, in the same area knew about them. So, I wonder why. Maybe somebody's marketing these to children. All right. So, I'm going to talk about addiction. Because addiction is the topic, addiction and injury. Those are the two topics that, if you want to review. All right. Here's a study from the University of Michigan looking at use of illicit drugs among 12th graders, okay? People too young to smoke, right? How old are you?
16, I'm 17.
Okay. So you are too young to smoke. Legally?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Hope I didn't do it. What's missing from this? I'm so pissed at this slide. Tobacco. These are kids that age shouldn't be smoking. They didn't even mention tobacco on the addictive substances being used by 12th graders. Isn't that amazing once you think about it? And remember, virtually all new users of tobacco products are under the age of 18. This is not a minor issue. Here's an addictiveness rating. It's very hard to find these. I don't know how accurate it is. But looking at how addictive different substances are, here's oxycodone, here's tobacco. Let's go down and find something else that's controversial. Oh, marijuana. It's over here. Tobacco is one of the most highly addictive substances that man knows about. And I'm going to ask you what matters. Total nicotine, duration of effect, peak levels, bang for the buck, method of acquiring nicotine. I'll give you my thoughts. Why is a roller coaster exciting? I mean, to me, this is viscerally understandable. It's exciting because of how high it goes, because of how fast it goes, and because how fast it changes, right? I mean, can't you feel this? I don't think you even need a scientific. So the most addicting drug would look like this. It gives you great big peaks. You could build up a level over time. You'd be upset when you came down from that high. And that's the profile. Here are 4 different forms of nicotine delivery. Cigarettes, perfect, right? Instant high that tapers off with a sustainable level. Snuff, you don't get high as fast. It maintains levels. Nicotine gum, pathetic. Chewing tobacco doesn't give you that quick high, that quick, going up onto the hill. And this is a terrible picture, but you remember there was a food pyramid. Have you ever seen a food pyramid?
Yeah.
Okay. So even the teenagers, they've changed a lot over the years. But if you established a nicotine pyramid, which I have created for you here, I think you'd have things like chewing tobacco down at the bottom. You clearly have the cigarette as the king of the pack. Cigars would come a little beneath it. Snooze and hookahs and e-cigarettes, I think, would be right underneath. I think that they're a major thing. And so it's almost, even to isolate e-cigarettes is a mistake. E-cigarettes are part of the cycle of nicotine addiction, and they're way up there. You let them in the door, and you're causing a lot of injury. Just another thing, looking at what drugs, now when somebody included tobacco, what addictive drugs are used most widely in a certain population. Tobacco is the top of the heap. And my final crucial points are coming up. Just not sure. We're doing okay. All right. The developing brain. This, to me, as I said, is the most important issue of all. I'm going to show you again some non-e-cig. Just, if you don't see e-cigs as being part of something, you're missing the whole. Okay? So here's the risk of becoming an alcoholic related to when you took your first drink. If you'll notice, if you started at less than age 12, the risk is, I don't know, 6 times the risk than if you started at 19 or a later age. Okay? Let's change to another drug. Oh, let's do tobacco. This is the risk of becoming a chronic smoker based upon when and how much you start smoking. If you start smoking 1 to 5 cigarettes a day, at 50 or greater, you have about a 7% chance, still not 0, of becoming somebody who continues to smoke and becomes an addicted smoker. If you smoke the same number of cigarettes at age 12 to 17, excuse me, you have a 28% chance, I'll say, of becoming addicted. So, do you see the difference? If you start young, your chance of becoming addicted is about 1 in 4, or greater than that. Just a little bit. This is 1 to 5 cigarettes. This is just a few puffs on an e-cig. I'm going to give you, I think, I think the other graph I don't have on this one. So the problem about this is that the developing brain is more susceptible to these addictive substances than the adult brain. If an industry can get a population of youth to use an addictive substance when they're still young, they will have lifelong users at a very high rate. If I were working for the tobacco industry, my whole goal would be to expose as many young children to tobacco or e-cigs as I could. And that's what their goal is, because that's where the money is, and that's where their future security lies. So, the FDA weighed in on e-cigs in 424-14. Dr. Glantz didn't even talk about this because he was so frustrated. This regulation contained several things that would be appealing: ban on sales to minors, prohibition on distributing free samples. They were giving teenagers free e-cigs at the county fair in Arkansas a few years ago. Free samples, yeah, for teenagers. Ban on selling vending machines unless they're young people are never there. Warnings and requirements for disclosure. By the way, these are suggestions. Now it's time for comments. Probably about 2 years of comments. Then if they make a rule, the tobacco industry can sue them, bring them to court, and delay any such rules or water them down for another few years. So I do applaud the fact that someone's trying to do something, but I think, as Dr. Glantz said, that this is incredibly ineffective and probably not very promising to those who care about this crop of today's American youth. What's missing? Bans on advertising. I think that it has to have the same bans that tobacco has. I think an e-cigarette has to be treated like a cigarette. You want a tobacco product, you've got a tobacco product, we're going to tax you like a tobacco product. Everywhere where you can't smoke, you can't use an e-cig, period. That's my personal feeling. I think it's supported by, I hope I've given you reasons to feel that it's supported. So, I'm about done. That's an e-cig. The flavor, that's at a vape bar. That's a New York vape bar. Teenager doing an e-cig. And I think this has been alluded to. And I guess my point here was the same one that Dr. Glantz made, was that the biggest function of e-cigs is to allow smokers to continue their nicotine high during tobacco-free intervals. So I hope you understand why I'm turning this into the nicotine convention rather than the tobacco convention. I'm sorry about renaming it. You don't mind, do you? It's okay with me? So I asked you at the beginning whether this went up or down. A little bit goes up. A few people get less toxins, and maybe a few people will quit. And the real message is that it has so many negatives and such capacity to entrap a new generation of American smokers and of smokers all through the world that e-cigs are a dangerous substance. So if you ask me, are they a wolf in sheep's clothing? The answer is absolutely. That's all I have for you.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. If anyone has questions for Dr. Barr.
So, I work with parents and kids and they're always wanting to take all their goods. So would you recommend using all that top to top when they're thinking of asthma or do that here?
Oh my God, it's such a deadly question. My other title for this talk is E6, Divide and Conquer, because they're making people with truly great intentions recommend E6 in some contexts, and some recommend them to everybody because they're a little bit different, and they say, well, this is better than that. And it's hard for me to, well, yeah, it might be a little better than that. And that's why I try to put it in the cycle context. First of all, I'll tell you a funny story. There's a veteran, I work at a VA and the University Hospital. There's a vet who puts albuterol, which is a bronchodilator used in asthma, into e-cigs and gets him out. You've got to laugh when you say this drug delivery device. Also, people are starting to use e-cigs for marijuana hash, for the concentrated dose from marijuana. Apparently extremely effective. And again, we don't know the dose. So, it is less injurious to use an e-cig than to use a cigarette. It's hard for me. I will never recommend it. I can't recommend it. I don't stop users from using them and say, go back to cigarettes. I sort of say, okay. I'm sorry, but you're stuck with the same issue. That's the best answer. Can anybody give a better answer? The four is no. Yeah, stopping smoking is the right answer.
Parents whose kids have asthma, so they want to do better, and they don't want to quit, so they switch to e-cigarettes. Is that better alternative? Because the kids want to get that.
I would probably tell the parents, some people have successfully quit after switching over to e-cigarettes. I think I would try to get 5%. You can do this, I think you can. And that's what's really best for you. You can do it. That is my message. When I talk to smokers, message number one is it's not your fault. You've been ensnared. This is not your fault. Soldiers were given free cigarettes during the World Wars. It's not their fault. Number one, it's not your fault. Number two, you can do something about it. Oh, it's not your fault. That's where I start everything. And I know how difficult it is.
It's not their fault to start. It's their fault. It's their decision to stop. It has to be their decision.
Right.
It's addictive.
And even, that's a hard word for me, the word decision, because it's an addiction. It's like heroin. So they do have to decide, but I actually don't use the word decision because I think that with addiction, it's kind of different from deciding.
It's like overeating.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of like, am I going to have a cheeseburger or
Salad.
for lunch? That's my decision. But when you're dealing with an addictive substance, it's harder to use the word decision. But I do agree. You can, and I, you know, if I'm going to go on in this quitting thing, I say, you know, you need to decide when you're going to stop. But let's choose a stop date. You can do it. I use positive things, but if you say you can decide to quit and you don't quit, then you're a failure. And that's the problem. And people fail all the time. And I say, in other words, I'm going to put it different topic. If you keep trying, you will make it one day. That's another. I mean, you don't say, you know, if you fail this time, then you're going to stop. Say, if you keep trying, you'll make it one day. Those are my approaches.
Is hookah comparable to an e-cigarette?
Pardon me?
Is hookah comparable to an e-cigarette?
No. Hookah. How about hookahs? Hookahs give you an extremely high particulate level, which he mentioned, so I don't have to go into it, and quite high nicotine levels. I think that hookahs are another very dangerous thing, and I wouldn't equate them. You know what I mean? And it all goes into the.
I'm just wondering if that really means anything.
You guys know what a hookah is, everybody?
No.
You smoke through the. We're on my pyramid. There's a hookah. You put the tobacco in the top up here, and you suck through here, and the smoke goes through water, and some people think that makes a difference. They're also flavoring their stuff a lot, so you know it's in the flavor area. Very high concentration. It's very polluting, so they probably have an extremely high cardiovascular risk, which might be lower in e-cigs. I would call them different. But are they dangerous? Yes, extremely.
There are hookah bars, they're completely.
Yeah, there are baby bars, and
Yeah.
there's a hookah bar on the street near where we live. One of my fellows, I'm a lungs physician. One of my fellows once asked me if I wanted to join him there. I shouldn't have said that. I just said.
Complete the course.
This is the way. Yeah. Any other questions? You should. Pardon?
Just for observations.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all you want.
Well, why don't you guys take a break? I'm going to talk about the broader issue of tobacco and disease, how it causes different diseases in the next session, but take a break.